Welcome to this very special edition of the KJ Masterclass Live, the show which ensures that you profit from your time spent here with experts, either through the industry insights, information, or simply learning from them. And today we have Amanda Cassar, author, podcast host, qualified financial advisor, and global traveler. And she's also a speaker. She travels all across the globe and give talks to people, especially on financial abuse. Welcome to the show, Amanda.
Thank you so much for having me, AJ. Appreciate the invitation.
You are welcome. Welcome to the show. Welcome to India. And Amanda, my first question is about traveling. You travel across the globe. You are a speaker, I know, but you also love traveling. You are going out again soon. Is your life the way you live? You are building your fourth house at the moment. Is it about that you had lots of money, or is it that you have managed your money well, you plan things well? Because a lot of people want to do the very things that you are doing but are not able to do, even with money, but they lose it along the way. So how would you like to, let's start with it, how would you like to put it?
I think when you've got a passion for something, you make it happen, don't you? Like if you want to watch your favorite TV show every night or binge watch on Netflix, you make that happen. Okay, that doesn't cost as much money, but we always make time for the things that are important to us. And for me, travel and new experiences is really important. And thankfully today, with all the tools available to us on the internet, we can shop around quite a bit and find some great sites to get good deals. I actually managed to get to India in 2019 at the start before lockdown, so I'm so pleased I got that ticked off my bucket list, but I'd love to be back. There's so much more to see. But I think it's a combination of managing time and money. So I have my own business. It's a family business. My two children help me run it. So I've had to train them up to be able to take over when mum isn't here. But business can be done from anywhere in the world today. So people, when you're self-employed, it's very funny when they say, don't you ever work? And it's like, well, actually, I never stop. Like, it doesn't matter if I'm in India or Chicago or Australia or Africa. If you've got an internet connection and a mobile phone, you're always available to work. So, yeah, I don't usually stop when I travel, but I do take time to have wonderful adventures, whether it's, climbing with the silverback gorillas in Uganda or, on suspension bridges in Canada. There's so many wonderful adventures to have. I just want to make sure I've got lots of life experiences in my memory bank before I drop off.
that is not going to happen soon. Long way to go.
I hope so.
Yeah, it is. And so a lot of people want to do that, as I said earlier, these things, but they're not able to do. You are a qualified financial advisor, Amanda.
Yes.
How would you, or what would you like to tell people? What is the best way to manage their money in today's time? Let's look at different scenarios. One is a person has money but not the right financial advice. And then there are people who have a bit of salary. They want to, look at ways where they can put their money. That's the right place where it can grow, where it builds wealth for them, builds security for them as they go along in life. And then there are people who are just starting out in life. They don't earn much, but what should they know about money? A lot of people are independent in today's time. They want to do work for themselves. You can call them freelancers. You can call them people who have decided to go with the great resignation.
Yes.
So different segments of life, how should they look at money, managing money? And along this process, people start looking at other avenues to put, whether they are ethical ways to put money into things or non-ethical ways. That's debatable, but people look at shortcut methods so that they can build a security for themselves, grow rich quicker. Overall, several questions at the same time, Amanda, but you are an expert and all these questions are so interrelated. I thought I'll just put them to you so that you can answer them all at your own pace.
Sure. So I suppose starting with the last one you gave me of people starting out in life who might not have much to start with, I think making sure that you invest in your own education is really important along the way, especially financially, because often the basics of finances aren't even taught in school. So we need to learn right from the very beginning how to manage our money. And that can be as simple as learning how to do a basic budget. So lots of people, especially who are freelancers or self-employed, say to me, look, I can't do a budget because I don't know what I've got coming in every week. I'm like, I actually don't care what you have coming in every week. What have you got going out? So what does it cost you to wake up every day and breathe, to put food on the table, to pay your insurances, to live, whether that's rent or a mortgage, if you have to, pay government fees, what does it cost you every day to live? And in Australian dollars, that could be $40,000, $60,000. In India, the cost of living is quite different. But knowing what it costs you every week, every fortnight, just to get up, whether that number's 427, 382, 1649, knowing that number puts you in control so that when you do know what you're going to earn, is it going to cover those expenses or not? So once you've got a handle on know your number, whatever that is, and it will change all the time as you pay off debt or take on debt, you'll be able to then work out when the money comes in, is that enough to cover those bills? Do I need to work harder? Do I need to take on a second job because I'm not making ends meet? Do I need more contracts? Should I increase my hourly rate? Versus actually, I do have extra coming in now. I've easily covered what it costs me to live. Now, what opportunities do I have to start investing or making that extra money grow for me? So it's very boring, very basic. But if you don't know that number that it costs you to live, it's very difficult to make all those other decisions. You might be there saying, well, I'm going to get a house, I'm going to buy a new car, I'm going to start something else in my business, I want to begin a share portfolio. But if you're not even covering your expenses, it's very difficult to know what you can then allocate to those other things. So it's the basic building block of understanding your money. And if as you get more savvy and do make more money, you are in the black, you've got the extras, then the education continues in understanding what you'd like to invest in. Should it be first that you bring down any debt that you have? Should you have a portfolio on the side and expand into properties and shares and other sustainable or ethical investments that interest you? So always learning. If it's something you feel you're not good at or you don't want to invest in that learning, then you invest in a professional who can do it for you. So someone who is a licensed financial advisor or investment advisor, make sure they've got all the right accreditations, that they're listed with the agencies that they should be listed with, so you don't get some fly-by-night operator who's out to take your money. There's lots of those. Someone who's been
Right.
around a long time with good testimonials, that can help you, and an investment in a professional can be worth its weight in gold. And that's part of the new outsourcing community we've got, isn't it? Like, I mean, if I don't like the ironing, you pay someone to do it. If I don't want to do my groceries, I can have them delivered. So if I don't want to understand or get my head around the money, I can pay someone to do that for me. But you want to make sure you get the right person. So I think, yeah, those building blocks of knowing where to start, and then as you progress and become more savvy, you can either understand and make those decisions yourself or partner with someone who can help educate you and guide you on that path of where to put your money and where is best for you.
Right, right. In this, for the youngsters, especially who are starting out, they also, a lot of people also believe that this term called YOLO, you only live once. So how do they manage both the things and live? And I don't know whether I agree with that or not agree with. I myself don't know. I somewhat agree or some, but how should they look at it? They want to live for today, but they also have to prepare for tomorrow. So, what would you advise on this particular, as you have got two adult children, and they are part of your business, so you would be in a better position to actually say something on this.
Yeah, it's really important to have experiences and live for today, to build those memories while you're young and healthy and can travel. The amount of people who save for their retirement and then they're too ill or too unwell to enjoy those experiences and they've missed out. That's where the YOLO comes in. You do only live once, and if you're not able to do all those dream things, it's one of those big regrets at the end of life if you couldn't do those exciting things that you wanted to achieve. But it's also that fine balance, and I call it looking after your future self. So it might be something like, oh, there's a lovely new handbag or a beautiful new shirt that I'm looking at, and I'm like, would future Amanda thank me for buying that? So I view myself as two people. So there's the Amanda today, and yes, she'd quite like that handbag or that new shirt or that experience, but will future Amanda thank me for that as well? And sometimes I tell future Amanda she can take a hike, and other times I'm like, you know what? I actually have 13 bags in my cupboard. I probably don't need another red handbag or that other shirt. I've got clothes I haven't worn for a while. So it's walking that fine line between needs and wants and looking after me now versus me in the future, because I don't want to also slide into retirement going, what a brilliant life with all these amazing experiences I've had, but I'm going to have to eat steamed rice for the rest of my life, or baked beans on toast, or go into retirement poor, rich with life experiences, but nothing to look after me in my older years or frailty years. So it's finding that fine line between putting money away, knowing that I have the magic of compounding interest for the next 20, 30, 40 years, depending on how young you are, to help you grow that money, and yet still enjoying yourself in the meantime. There's always a
Right.
trade-off. There's a trade-off.
Right. And what about people in their early 30s or mid 30s who are into that decade of that working decade between 30 to 40 around, and need to earn for today, as well as think about retirement? Maybe somebody who wants to start a job, independent work after 40, or maybe for the retired life. How would you like to look at money, manage their money in these times?
That's when adulting really starts, isn't it? When you have to be a responsible grown-up. You've usually got some debt, some children, some school fees perhaps, and all those bills start to overwhelm. So I think if you've laid the foundation before that, you understand what comes in and where it goes, it does make it easier when those real years of grown-uphood that we don't want actually hit, and we do have to manage the budget. If we've got that really good grounding in understanding what's coming in and what's going out, then we also have the ability to go, right, there is that discretionary spending. We do want to have fun with the kids, but we also know that we have to be able to put aside. So it might be simple things like, every Friday night you'd like to take the family out for dinner. Well, maybe if you put that $50, $100, $200, whatever it costs, you go, maybe we can only do that once a month, not once a week. And sometimes those other payments have to go towards my future retirement. So it's not about depriving yourself. It's about still having the experiences, but maybe also weighing them up against what else is needed in life. We all seem to have that desire now that, the media, you want it all, get it now, pay for it later.
Right.
Life that you will have to pay for it later at some stage. The piper will call. So it's understanding when do we pay, and making sure that, you're not missing out, but you're also being sensible.
Right. And then the later part, the aged people who are senior citizens, you can call, or people above 60. Because you have specialist accreditations in aged care advice and self-managed superannuation funds. How would you advise, what would you advise them at this stage? Because that this is the time when you do not know what actually is happening in the field of finance, in the field of investment, stock market, and a lot of times you are so dependent on your financial advisor. So, along with it
Tricky.
comes ethical investing, either on your part or even from the advice of the financial advisor. How do you look at it? What would you advise to people in elderly people, especially? How should they protect their money and invest their money ethically? How would you look at this?
So, with the aged care advice to start with, I suppose every country has very different facilities that are available. In Australia, it's very expensive to be an elderly person who needs to go into what we used to call a nursing home or an aged care facility. Sometimes they have to sell their homes to be able to afford to do that. And when you've got a partner who's still living there, that can make it quite difficult. So putting aside for those frailty years is important. We don't have those beautiful family communities as much anymore where all the families around and we can take Nana or Papa or Oma or Opa in and live with us. And especially if they have higher care needs now, dementia seems to be so much more prominent, and it's very difficult to care for someone in our home who may be aggressive or has lost their memory, and they can't toilet themselves or shower themselves anymore. So it does make it harder on family members to help provide, what was just, there was no aged care facility. It was the family who rallied together and helped out. So having something put away for those, we call them the frailty years. So that might not be post 60, that might be post 85 when things are winding down. But as you're approaching retirement, a lot of people say, well, we want to be very, very conservative with our money at 65. That's when we're going to retire and we've got to make it last. But they're also not thinking that they actually have another 20, possibly more years to live, and putting money in very cautious, very low earning investments sometimes isn't going to get them the best results. And they need a little bit of education about taking that little bit more risk so that long-term share market investments that have income and pay better returns over the long term, although they can be more scary, more frightening if you don't understand them, they can also help make your money last longer for you. I'm reading a very interesting book at the moment called Die with Zero, about spending everything you have while you're alive, but also helping your children and giving back at the same time. I'm still trying to get my head around the concept, because we're taught to hoard all this money and don't let it go. And when you die, you can pass it on. But it's very difficult because we do need to fund all these. And we don't know, will I get Alzheimer's? Will I break my hip? Will I have a stroke? It's all very, very unknown about, will I go to 65? Will I go to 85 or even 100 now? So it's very hard to tell, and trying to prepare for every scenario is pretty tricky. I'm actually getting more people coming to me now interested in the sides of ethical investing. And I remember when it was very new, a lot of people were saying, what do you think? And I remember looking into it quite a bit, and the returns were terrible. So people had sort of shy away, going, well, as much as I'd love to do that from my heart and from social good, I still need to make proper returns for my money to grow and look after me. But I don't think that issue is a big concern anymore. We've got many years under our belt of social, ethical, and impact investing. I think the hardest thing now is making sure that the investments we have align with our own individual choices. Some of them might be, we don't want child slavery or poverty, or we don't want anything to do with human trafficking. It might be that I want to save the environment. So you look at companies that make clothes and what is their impact with water and dyes and bleaches. So there are so many things to consider with impact and ethical investing, and how they're tested by the different companies. We've heard of things like greenwashing, where people go, no, it's a very beautiful and ethical investment, and we find out it's really not as cool as they were telling us that it was. So like anything, there's going to be tips and traps, and it comes back to that education piece again. Or if you don't want to know about it, pay someone who does to be able to help you manage those investments. Some people say they'd like their whole portfolio invested that way. And I know the UK is a very progressive market, and they have investments now that tie in with, I believe they're the David Attenborough principles and social development goals that are around the world. So others are like, well, I'll start with a little bit and see how it goes and grow my portfolio. So I suppose it's like when we go swimming for the first time. It's just, well, just have a little paddle, just pop your feet in, see how you go. And then when you're a bit more confident, let's go out up to our knees or up to our waist. So you sort of wade out over time. And as your confidence builds and you understand, you are able to take that little bit more risk and dive in and swim with the big kids, or, become an Olympic swimmer if you like. It just takes time to build up, our confidence and energy and see how we go with it. So I believe ethical investing is a lot like that. Again, doing our research and education and finding what's important to us and how do we want to have an impact when we invest.
Right. Is it possible for an individual to do so much of research and then you are dependent on the financial advisor who again may look at ethical investing differently? Because we talked of greenwashing before all these things. There is so much of brainwashing happening from everywhere. Everybody wants you to consume, not only consume products, but also consume their ideas about even investing. How do you deal with so much of brainwashing happening all the time across everywhere, internet, and from all sort of mediums? So, and amidst all these things, you are the one who is earning money, your hard-earned money. How do you manage that? How do you ethically invest it? What is the thing that you should keep in mind, because it's so difficult to understand?
Yeah, it is very difficult. And sometimes the funds that you think you love aren't as, like I said, aren't as great as we thought they were. There's a lot of information available on reputable sites, or for investment companies. So a company, I'll use the name Vanguard. It's globally known around the world, with trillions under management. They have education sites, so any investor can pop on the Vanguard site and see, how does this company do their investing, and you can Google them and see, do they have a good track record in this? Have they ever been caught in a scandal? There's not a lot that's hidden anymore with the internet. Not too many secrets anymore. So you can find out very quickly, what's our philosophy about approaching ethical investments? Are we more interested in getting rid of the bad guys? So we don't want tobacco or we don't want guns. But, do we also want to promote companies that are about doing good? So it can be as simple as, where do I buy my clothes? Do I want to go to a shop that I know uses child labour in a third world country, is terrible for the environment with the amount of water and bleaches that they, leach back into the system? Or I'm not going to shop there because I know they have a terrible reputation. If I want to invest my $5 or $50 in a t-shirt, I'm actually going to go somewhere else where I know they have a sustainable practice, they support a living wage, that the people in their companies are looked after. So it doesn't even have to be about the money I'm investing into an investment product. It can be investing in the shirt on my back. There are companies that are absolutely notorious for being dreadful, environmental, impact from their practices or their child labour practices. So those little decisions we can make every day. There's apps that tell us, what's the rating on these companies, or who could I go to instead that has a much better track record. So investing isn't just about where we put our money, it's where we spend it as well every day. Even our makeup, is testing on animals important to us or not? Does this makeup company still test on animals? Is that important to me, or I don't care? So it's individually what makes a difference to us. Would I prefer vegan makeup that's not tested on an animal to a product that I know is? So all of us have to make those individual choices about what is important to us, because where we spend our money is just as important as how we invest it.
Right, Amanda. I thought choice is about one's own choice, but it's not so easy to make a choice in today's time about anything, even about your own money. You've got so many factors to look at.
So many ways to look.
Right. Let's now move at something very, you are passionate about, is financial abuse. What is financial abuse for a common person to understand? And how do I know if I am a victim of financial abuse? in whatever way of life that I'm in.
Financial abuse is basically using another person's assets or income in a way that doesn't benefit them, or is, for your benefit rather than their benefit. So it can be things as simple as, I saw $20 on Grandpa's nightstand, and I'm going to just nick that and spend it at the pokies or gambling. Or it could be things like, I'm actually going to get Grandma to change her will and make me the beneficiary. It could be stealing, entire bank accounts from people. It could be making a family member work in a family business for no return. Even keeping a partner at home and giving them a very small income as a budget for family needs. It can take on so many different forms, and it's now being recognised as a part of what they're calling coercive control. And some countries are passing laws against this coercive control, where you are trying to control a person through emotional abuse and financial abuse and physical abuse, where you're having, a detrimental impact on their mental health, their physical health, their financial health. So it's a very insidious form of abuse, probably the one least talked about. There's a lot more talk now since the Me Too movement about domestic violence and sexual violence against both men and women. But financial abuse is probably the easiest way to control an intimate partner. And in the earlier years, women seem to cop the brunt of that because of the traditional role of a man being the breadwinner and the woman staying at home and looking after the family. That most traditionally it happens that way. I've certainly seen it the other way as well, where the woman controls the man. When it comes to elder financial abuse, it seems to be very evenly split between the men and the women, that a family member or a carer or a neighbour is taking advantage of them, taking them to the bank and making them get out money, making them spend on things. I need a new TV, poor me, I can't afford it, would you please look after me? And controlling them or guilting them into doing things. So it's pretty awful. It's not often spoken about, but a very big part of most other forms of intimate partner violence. So it's certainly something I'd love to lift the lid on and shout a lot more about. And it's also one of those things, when we think we see it, we're not sure, or we don't want to say to a friend, look, how come Tom won't let you come to the movies anymore? Or how come you've been wearing that dress, all the time for 4 or 5 years now? Or why are your shoes all worn out? Or how come you're not as happy and you can't come out to coffee with us anymore? So there's ways of, I suppose, approaching it without going, listen, things don't seem to be right with you, because it's very easy to go on the attack. I don't like what's happening to you, but, it could be as simple as, I feel really distressed when you have to say no all the time, because it makes me feel like I can't spend quality time with you. Or, sometimes people don't want to talk about it. There's shame, there's embarrassment, especially when there's other forms of abuse as well. I think telling amongst a friend that, look, it seems to me things aren't right and I'm here for you if you need me. Just let them know that there's somebody who's noticed, because a lot of the time people even think among themselves like, oh, I think it's a bit strange that he asked me to do that, but, or maybe that's just how he was raised, or maybe that's how his family did things. Or so it can be hard to even know sometimes. I met a gentleman once who had been the victim of financial abuse. He'd been in an interracial marriage, and he would come home, just wanted to have a beer and meal on the table and play with the kids. That was his traditional beliefs. And she would actually hit him and say, you're not making enough money. And she'd been stealing from him for many years and sending it overseas to her family. And he had he was the breadwinner, but he just delegated all control to his wife to manage it. So he had no idea that he was a victim of both domestic violence and financial abuse, until it all sort of unraveled and he went and saw a lawyer and she pointed it out to him. So it is, like I said, it's quite an insidious thing. And I think more of us need to be aware of it and ready to call it out. There was a dreadful case in Australia some years ago where a woman was murdered by her husband, And her parents later started a campaign with the hashtag say something, because all the times they'd seen him do something that wasn't quite right, take the credit card off her, or not let her buy new clothes that when they were worn out, or get things for the children that they needed. And they just thought, well, it's their marriage, it's their family, we don't want to interfere. And, were so guilty, they felt, when, in the end she was murdered by him. And they'd never, over through the years, talked to her about, what is your situation? Why is he saying this? Do you need to come home? Do you need us to help you? They just felt awful that all these signs that they'd witnessed and ignored, or felt it wasn't their business, and then they have the ultimate loss. It's an awful thing. So I think, and look, you do risk losing maybe a friendship over it if someone doesn't want to talk to you about it. But I'd rather lose sleep at night about losing a friend because I had the guts to say, I'm worried about you, than, they've been gone in a domestic violence situation. So yeah,
Right.
it's a tough one, financial abuse.
I understand. I can get it. And one question that comes to my mind in this, Amanda, is that this financial abuse sort of thing, it is about relationships related to all emotions. And people do or live, care, show all the emotions in the way of doing things for their loved ones within the family, husband or spouse for each other, family. Right? It's the way, and especially in a country like India. Globally, now the whole world is changing everywhere. Even in India, many cases are coming up where children are not behaving the way traditionally they should. And even parents, they sometimes want to control their children and their lives. Amidst this whole emotional relationship, how does one differentiate what one or the other is doing out of care, or is it financial abuse? How do I know if somebody is body? It's for both men and women? What is it that should get the alarm bells ringing, and in terms of people,
I think
so
the
that you
big
start noticing
yeah,
things?
yeah, I think the big answer is it in their best interest or not? And if you've got a partner who is a chronic spender, who the whole money's going on trinkets and rubbish for the family home that nobody needs, and it would be a loving thing for that partner to say, look, I think you need to be on a budget. You've got an issue with spending or control. That's in the family's best interest, rather than, I'm not giving you any money anymore. You've only got $20 a week to do the groceries. People are going to starve. I think it's, what is the motive and whose best interest is it in? And again, sometimes from the outside, that's very difficult to judge. So I think just raising look, I've seen something that concerns me. Can you help me understand it? And they're, oh, look, that's just how we run things. Yeah, I'm a bit of a spender. He reins me in. That's fine. Versus, yeah, look, I've got no money to feed the kids. I can't get them school, shoes or clothes or books or pencils. Where there's an absolute detriment to the person, and the motive, like I said, is it born out of care and love and concern, or a controlling mechanism?
Right, right. You have explained all the things very, very well,
Oh,
Amanda.
thank you,
And I
Adrian.
think, yeah, even I stand to be, understand things much, much better than I was earlier to the show. But
Oh, thank you, Adrian.
how do people connect with you for various things that you offer? What is it that they can connect with you for, and what is the best way to do that?
Look, you can find me on all the socials. I'm sure I'll give you all my handles, but I am on LinkedIn and Twitter and Insta, so you can find me on all of those. If you just even have a question you'd like to reach out and run by me, I'm more than happy to help out with that. I have my podcast, Financial Secrets Revealed. So if you just would like a little bit more information on that, season 2 was all about financial abuse. So if it's something that's of interest, I've even put together a course globally for financial professionals to learn more about it, to be able to help other people. So if you'd like to reach out, I can let you know a little bit more about that. But look, you'll find me. All my handles will be on your show notes, I'm sure. So
Right.
yeah, please reach out. And look, if you've got a story to tell me, I love hearing the stories as well. They're the best way for other people to learn about situations, I think. So storytelling is brilliant. I'd love to hear your story.
Wonderful, wonderful. My last question to you, Amanda, is that, you know, where how do you manage your this whole thing within the family? You are there, your two adult sons are there, they are helping you out, and then you plan that. Where is the next trip happening? Where do you want to reach now with so much of already financial independence, financial freedom you already have? So, how do you set your goals? Is it again about more money, or is it more about traveling from now?
Oh, look, I'm probably the least money motivated financial advisor in the world. To me, money is the means to having, lovely life experiences. And this year, I'm actually reaching many milestones. My husband and I both turned 50 this year. My son is giving us our very first grandbaby in April, and my daughter is getting married in September. So we have a year of celebration and our Festivus of 50 and so many beautiful family things happening. So I'll probably be broke at the end of this year after all these things happening at once. I'm also helping a lovely organization called MDRT run their national conference in Nashville. So I have a couple more international trips ahead of me. But that's what life's all about, isn't it? All those beautiful experiences. And look, if some years cost more than others for all that, then it's worth every penny. So if that means I've got to work a little bit harder to cover all those costs and make a bit more, then I'm more than happy to do that. And the bank of mum continues.
Right, right. Life is all about great experiences, and money should help you in that
It's
thing.
just a tool. Exactly. It goes around, comes around. Someone best described it to me like an energy. You give it out and it comes back and it makes the world. Was it that beautiful movie, Hello Dolly, years ago? Makes the world go round. It's like manure. You spread it around, it makes things grow. Great analogy.
Absolutely, absolutely. On this note, it's a wrap on this very special edition of the KJ Masterclass Live. Thank you so much indeed for joining us.
Thanks.